bell. That curve rings a bell. That chapel of intellectual thought, those hollow halls where no one questions, whose wisdom is truly being taught. That curve rings a bell. That curve rings a bell. Isolation of fears is impossible. Perpetuation of false ideas, more than impossible. Isolation of fears is impossible. Perpetuation of false ideas, more than impossible. That curve rings a bell. Hate is a not so silent partner of fear. The club words are very clear. Hate is not so silent partner of fear. The club words are very clear. Justification for genocide, for a simple race of fools. Justification for genocide, and no one sheds a tear. That curve rings a bell. That curve rings a bell. That curve rings a bell. That chapel of intellectual thought. Those hollow halls where no one questions whose wisdom's being taught. Isolation of fears is impossible. Perpetuating falsehood is more than possible. Perpetuation of falsehoods is more than possible. That curve rings a bell. That curve rings a bell. Hate is not so silent. Partner of fear. The cloak words are very clear. Justification for genocide, for a simple race of fools. No one sheds a tear. Everyone stays in school. If the past is bar, that's the truth. They passed the bar, that's the proof. They passed that bar, that's true. Well, there's always a prison school. There's always prison for you. There's always prison for that simple race of fools. That curve rings a bell. That curve rings a bell. That chapel of intellectual thought. Those hollow halls where no one questions whose wisdom's being taught. No one questions whose wisdom's being taught. No one questions whose wisdom's being taught. No one questions at all. The dead August leaves in the fall. Dead August leaves in the fall. That curve rings a bell. That curve rings a bell. That curve rings a bell. Hate is a not so silent partner of fear. Hate is a not so silent partner of fear. The cloak words are very clear. No one sheds a tear. No one sheds a tear. That curve rings a bell. Curve rings a bell. rings a bell. That curve rings a bell. Are you disturbed by the bell? The toll rings for those who do not tell. That curve rings a bell. That curve rings a bell. Toll rings for those who do not spell well. Toll rings for those who far from the fell. Far, far from it all. They don't suffer the fall. The curve rings a bell. Don't you hear the bell? How far did you fall down the well? That curve rings a bell. How far down the well did he or she fall? He does not so silent partner of fear. Those on the bottom climb for the light, dear. All those at the bottom climb for the light, dear. But all those far pained by fear. That curve rings a bell. That curve rings a bell. That curve rings a bell. How far you fell. This is Phantom Electric Ghost. In this episode 111, we talk about getting our OPZ from Teenage Engineering and our new Cancer Poetic Songs. So for the last 3 years, we've been waiting for Teenage Engineering, a synth company that has a famous synth called an OP1 and a lot of other modules. They have these like pocket operator modules that are very interesting. And so they create like micro workstations that you can actually bring on the road that are very powerful. The OP1 was a revelation. It was based on this virtual tape concept, and it had low keyboard, very portable, very long battery life, and it had, a lot of musicians have used it on recordings. It's very interesting. It's really a different way to do workflow, and it's consistent with what we like to do with hardware workflow. It's a hardware synth, not like a soft synth, not like FL Studio or Pro Tools or Ableton Live or anything like that. You're focused on using the actual hardware synth to create everything. The OPZ is a revelation in that it's a little synthesizer, sequencer-based synthesizer that's the size of a TV remote, super portable, rechargeable. It has a very powerful sequencer, as I said, and a sound engine that you can build drums, you can build basses, you can have samples, though it's somewhat hard to get samples into it. But if you have an OPZ, you can do it. OP1. So that's something we will look into. It has a microphone that we're just starting how to learn how to use, but at the end of the day, it's just another way to create music. You can do it in your bedroom, you can do it on the bus, you can do it on a plane. It's very powerful. It has, all the tools of a synth in terms of like LFO and envelopes and filters and compression and effects and step components, which are the new kind of concept. You can add these step components to every single step in the sequence, and you can real-time record.
So we were waiting for this. We just got it on Saturday. It's December. We spent the weekend creating songs. What we decided to do is back in 1995, we created a book of poetry called Cancer. And Cancer was talking about cancer on a macro level, macrocosm level, which is a societal level, and in a microcosm level. And not just the idea of the disease, but a cancer that affects your relationship at a micro level, which is like your individual personal relationship with people, and then societal level effect of social cancers like war and poverty and racism and hatred and all those other things. And so we decided to take a poem we had called That Curve Rings a Bell, that was written in response to a book called The Bell Curve, which basically tried to do a Darwinist concept that African Americans are genetically inferior in terms of our intellect. And you can prove it by using standardized tests, which fails to consider that if you check Africans in general in a society where they're not subjugated or allowed to be able to be successful, like in the Caribbean and in Africa, you find that there are Africans that test very well in mathematics, that are engineers, there are scientists. Within the confines of colonial and racist structures like the United States, where Black capability has been restricted to what um, is called the talented 10th. Maybe 10% of the Black population is able to be successful and go to college, become a lawyer, become a doctor, become a scientist. But in a Black um, type of structure where there are Black doctors and there are Black leaders and there are Black scientists, that is not so unheard of. But in a society where that kept slaves from being able to read, that we didn't have the right to vote till 1964, that people are still trying to restrict our right to vote. Republicans in general acting like African Americans are not, quote, Americans. We're not all American. Well, we came before a lot of people in Ellis Island. We were here. I can trace my family back to the early 1600s, where a slave owner was a German slave owner, owned my great grandparents. So, and they were insurance policies that would insure us for the slave owner. So, when you're in a society where you're being treated like chattel or cattle or an object, and you were just given the right to vote in 1964, a book like The Bell Curve is not legitimate. It is a scientist trying to prove a racist concept, which sometimes Darwin's theory of evolution kind of has a dark side when it comes to racism, and it was used and continually used to try to act like darker skinned peoples or indigenous people are not as sophisticated or capable as Western folks. So, with that out of the way, we took one of those songs or poems and turned it into a song using the OPZ, because the OPZ allows us to do very unique recording. We're thinking of also doing some hip hop type of recording. As we indicated a couple episodes ago, we really enjoy Earl Sweatshirt's style of recording, and we're thinking of integrating our Make Noise Morphogene with the OPZ to do some interesting experiments. So this particular situation is with the OPZ, we use the ability to chain patterns, and we use the ability to use a tape machine in the OPZ, allows you to edit real time. We're still trying to play with the microphone capability. We did actually do a voice sample into the tape recorder, but it doesn't actually come out like a voice. It comes out more like a synth tone that you can manipulate. So there's a lot of really interesting things you can do with this. You can do a lot of live performance. We live recorded it into a Zoom R24 and ran the tape machine and did some modulation tricks on the really smooth modulation wheels that are on this thing that apply to multiple capabilities. We are very keen on this device, using it, for shows. We haven't investigated the video components yet because we're still learning the synth part, but we're going to try to create some videos with its capability, and we're very interested in what we can actually get this thing to do. We're still learning a lot about it. But the idea is that we're going to do a Dark Ghost Volume 3, which will be a focus on these cancer poems that will be songs. We have already submitted Dark Ghost Volume 1 to Digger's Factory. We're getting ready to submit Dark Ghost Volume 2. Volume 1 is a 2 vinyl album on Amazon. It will be a full CD and be distributed digitally by a different publisher than what we normally use. The same publisher we used for our first 3 albums, Something Wicked, Indigo Menace, and Synesthesia Sweet Neo Soul Surrender. We are now sponsored, and we've got CIN Pals, which is a social network. You should check them out. And we have theinfatuation.com. We're hoping we can get other people to come on board. We are also in the midst of continuing our interviews for the end of this year. We've got a bunch of interviews scheduled to talk to bands. So we just talked to the Justice Society from Italy, and they're a really cool synth, pop, punk, alternative indie band. We appreciated them coming on the show. We're always down to collab with folks, or there are folks who want to look at talking to the ghost on about your band or your project, or actually working on a song or an album. Hit us up, and we'll definitely get back to you. You can send us a voice memo, or you can actually, through Anchor itself, Anchor FM has the ability to do a voice memo. You can get in touch with us there. You can reach us on our SoundCloud with a note. It's Phantom Electric Ghost. You can reach us on our Instagram, expansive_sound_experiments, and send us a direct message, and we can talk about how we could work on a project. And unlike some folks, we will actually work on a project without any upfront cash. We do ask those who want to actually sponsor us. You can actually sponsor us on the website, and you become a sponsor of the show. If you want to do that, that's a cool thing to do. Otherwise, we would get the money on the royalties on the back end. Depends on how you want to do it. And we're very interested in continuing our conversation with indie artists from around the world. So enjoy these first Cancer Poetic Songs, and let us know if you have any feedback. Thank you.